In the quiet hours of a new day, something was terribly wrong. As dawn approached, the first stirrings of unease began to ripple through the resort. Friends and family started their day, but one person was missing. A quick check of their room revealed an unmade bed, personal belongings left behind, a silent testament to a night that ended in mystery. Panic hadn't set in yet, just a growing nagging worry. Where could they be? Maybe they went for an early walk, a common activity in this serene location. But as minutes turned into an hour, and then two, that initial worry blossomed into genuine fear. The feeling was mutual among those who knew them. This was completely out of character. They were always punctual, always in touch. Their silence was deafening. Calls to their phone went straight to voicemail. Texts remained unread. A search of the immediate area, the room, the nearby lounge, the pool, yielded nothing. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. The resort staff was alerted around 8 a.m. Initially, they followed standard procedure, checking guest logs and security footage from the main entrances and exits. They reassured the family that people sometimes went on spontaneous early morning excursions, but the family knew better. This wasn't a spontaneous trip. This was a disappearance. As the morning wore on, the resort's search expanded. Staff began a more systematic sweep of the grounds, checking public areas, service corridors, and the vast manicured gardens surrounding the main buildings. Each empty space, each quiet corner, amplified the growing sense of dread. By late morning, with no sign of the missing person, the decision was made. It was time to call the police. The resort's management, now understanding the gravity of the situation, made the call. The initial response was from local patrol officers who arrived on the scene to take a preliminary report. They gathered the basic facts: name, age, physical description, what they were last seen wearing. They spoke with the family, trying to piece together the last known moments. The officers listened patiently, their expressions growing more serious as the details emerged. It was clear this wasn't a simple case of a guest who had wandered off. The transition from a missing person report to a potential criminal investigation began to take shape. Detectives were soon dispatched to the scene, and the resort transformed from a vacation paradise into the headquarters of a major investigation. Yellow tape, an unwelcome splash of color against the resort's pristine backdrop, started to appear, sectioning off the missing persons room and other areas of interest. The police established a mobile command post in the parking lot. Their presence was a stark, sobering reality check for other guests, whose whispers and worried glances followed the officers' every move. The investigation began in earnest. Detectives immediately started interviewing those who last saw the individual. Friends, family, and resort staff were all questioned. They were asked to recount the events of the previous evening step by step. What was their mood? Who were they with? What were their plans for the next day? Early witness statements began to paint a picture of the night. The missing person was last seen in the resort's main lobby bar around 10 p.m. They were described as being in good spirits, chatting casually with a few other guests. No one recalled any arguments, strange behavior, or signs of distress. One witness, a bartender, remembered serving them a single drink early in the evening. Another, a tourist from another country, recalled a brief, pleasant conversation about the local sights. But after 10:30 p.m., the trail went cold. No one could definitively say they saw them leave the bar or in which direction they went. It was a frustratingly blank slate. Using these fragments of information, investigators started to build a timeline. Every detail was crucial. They collected receipts from the bar and restaurant. They looked at keycard data, which showed the last time the missing persons room was accessed. The data indicated the door was opened around 10:45 p.m. But was it them who opened it, or someone else? Security camera footage became the central focus. Detectives spent hours poring over grainy videos from dozens of cameras positioned around the resort. They tracked the individual's movements from the dinner hall to the lobby bar. The footage confirmed witness accounts, but just like the human memory, the cameras had blind spots. The critical moments, the path from the lobby to their room, and what happened after, were maddeningly absent from the recordings. As news of the disappearance leaked beyond the resort walls, the media descended. Local news vans with their towering satellite antennas lined the road outside the main gate. Reporters with microphones and cameras began interviewing guests, staff, and anyone willing to talk. The story quickly went from a local report to national news. The face of the missing person was suddenly everywhere on television screens, on news websites, and across social media. The public's imagination was captured by the mystery. The resort, once known for its luxury and tranquility, was now famous for a very different, more sinister reason. The constant media presence added another layer of pressure on the investigators, who were now working under the intense glare of the public eye. With the story gaining widespread attention, theories began to circulate. The initial and most hopeful theory was that the person had simply left the resort on their own accord, seeking solitude, and would soon return. But as time passed, this seemed less and less likely. Another theory suggested an accident. The resort was large, with rugged terrain, cliffs, and a coastline nearby. Could they have gone for a late-night walk and fallen? Search and rescue teams were brought in to scour the surrounding landscape, their bright uniforms dotting the hillsides and beaches. But their exhaustive searches turned up nothing. No footprints, no dropped items, no signs of a struggle. Then, more troubling theories began to emerge in public discussions and online forums. Was foul play involved? The lack of evidence was itself a piece of evidence. A person doesn't just disappear without a trace. This theory branched into multiple possibilities. Was it a stranger? A crime of opportunity? Or was it someone they knew? Someone at the resort? Perhaps even someone they had just met? The police were careful not to fuel public speculation. In their press conferences, they were measured and professional, revealing only confirmed facts and asking for the public's help. They released a description in a recent photograph, and a dedicated tip line was established. Calls began to flood in, each one a potential lead that had to be meticulously followed up, no matter how outlandish it seemed. The first 48 hours are the most critical in any missing person case, and for the detectives on this investigation, the clock was ticking relentlessly. They were working against time, against the elements, and against the fading memories of potential witnesses. They re-interviewed everyone, hoping a small, forgotten detail might surface. They expanded the search of the security footage, looking for not just the missing person, but for any unusual vehicles or individuals in the area around the time of the disappearance. Every piece of data, every statement, every frame of video was a small piece of a puzzle with an unknown number of missing parts. The family, sequestered in a quiet part of the resort, waited in an agony of uncertainty, their hope warring with a growing despair. They made a public plea, their voices trembling, asking for any information that could bring their loved one home. Their raw emotion resonated with millions, turning a news story into a shared national heartache. The investigation was now a massive undertaking, but despite the resources, the manpower, and the global attention, the central question remained unanswered. What happened that night? The initial phase of the investigation concluded with more questions than answers. The timeline had a gaping hole. Physical evidence was non-existent, and every lead seemed to dissolve into a dead end. But as the days turned into a week, a new piece of information would emerge from the digital ether, a cryptic, electronic footprint that would challenge everything investigators thought they knew and steer the case in a shocking new direction. The search of the resort grounds and the initial witness interviews had provided a foundation, but the true key to the mystery lay hidden, waiting to be discovered. In the next chapter, we will delve into the forensic analysis of the digital evidence and the startling discovery that turned the investigation on its head. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 3.